What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world? I would like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. Today, we're going live with Ryan Felman, aka Path to Manliness. He is an author and also a podcaster. So, welcome to the show, Ryan. How you doing?
Hey, thanks, Zuby. I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I am always blessed, man. Always, always good.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that really sticks out about you, man. You're like always in a positive mood. You're always in an uplifting mood, and sometimes these musicians nowadays that's becoming more uncommon. So it's always welcome.
Thank you very much, man. So, I've done a very quick intro there, but why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about you, what you do, and what it is you're trying to do?
All right, so my name is Ryan Felman, also known as Path to Manliness, and I wrote a book called Reclaim Your Manhood, and it is the young man's guide to straightening out their life. So basically all I did was I wrote out 20 very simple, easy to follow rules that if I could go back in time and give myself a quick little guide to straightening out my own life, this is the book I would give. So it's it's not like on the level of say like Jordan Peterson's 12 rules, but it's the same kind of concept, and it's gotten a pretty good reception. I've been surprised at how the path to manliness thing has kind of taken off. I created this Twitter account about a year ago, and I really had like almost no social media presence before that, but I was
Mhm.
just kind of fucking around with this, and it took off. And one thing that I've realized, and one thing you were completely aware of, is that there's definitely a market and a need for people that are just being outspoken in traditional male roles.
Mm.
Um, People have become afraid to be outspoken, and they fear getting fired from their jobs. They fear becoming social outcasts, especially if you're like in the cities. Um, and I just refuse to bow down to it, and
Mm.
I'm speaking my mind, and I think I've caught a groove with that.
Yeah, so a lot of guests I've had on this podcast from all different worlds and from all different worldviews have said that exact same thing. I was at a live event in London that I spoke at 2 weeks ago. Everybody in the audience said the same thing. People are afraid to voice their views, voice their opinions. They're scared of the repercussions. They're scared
Yeah.
of mobs coming after them. So, how have we got into this stage where 95% of the Western population is afraid to express their own genuine beliefs and opinions?
Yeah, that's the interesting question, isn't it? So part of it is, and it goes back to like the election where we had the silent majority, and we had a lot of people that were just staying silent. And we've gotten ourselves into a position where social media and Silicon Valley have gotten so big and so powerful, they've been given the tools necessary to control the narrative. So you see these strange things like an 11-year-old boy dancing in the street and proclaiming that he's gay and whatever, and all these other, you know, unusual, unorthodox stances that people are taking are getting way more volume than they ever would have in the past, where they might have said something, in their neighborhood, and it had been, oh, that's that one guy, he's just a little different.
Mhm.
And that'd have been the end of that. But with the internet and social media, they're able to leverage it to make it much louder. And there are definitely people that, for I would say mostly financial reasons, but I think it goes even deeper than that, that are interested in trying to push this narrative.
Mm.
And they're making it seem like it's more common than it is. And if you spend all your
Sure.
time online, it seems like a epidemic. But you go out in your neighborhood, unless you're living in San Francisco, I mean, you can't even find these people.
Yeah. So where do you think that here's a question. I mean, it's a question I've asked a few people who have
Yeah.
sort of said something similar is like oftentimes we say this and we use the term they, and
Yeah.
it's like who are we even talking about? It's like, okay, you can tell somebody is pushing this. People are afraid of someone. They're saying, I don't want them to come after me. They are pushing this. And it's one of those things that is really strange because I mean, I've certainly come across actual individuals who are hardcore pushing this ideology
Yeah.
because they pop up in my mentions quite frequently. But yeah, I mean, you said that you think there's some financial incentive. What do you think the financial incentive is? Why don't you break that down?
You know, it's complicated. I think there's a lot of people that are making good amount of money that have these views. So your typical right wing conservative guy that's, maybe he spent some money on some ammo or his car, but for whatever reason, they tend to be less easy to advertise to. I
Mm.
think part of it's revenue, but that's not entirely all of it. But the people that are more SJW types, more leaning to the left, progressive, whatever you want to call them, they're a lot easier to market to. I think part of that may be because a lot of them aren't having kids,
Mm.
so they've got significantly less expenses. Um,
But don't
the
they
other
hate
thing is
capitalism?
they hate capitalism, but capitalism always wins, right? Yeah, so there's they is an interesting thing to say. It's it's something about these left leaning people, these progressives. They've got this response and you can be a soda company, you can be selling hats, whatever it is. If you cater to them, they'll speak up for you and they'll promote you, and if you don't cater to them, they'll attack you. So
Mm.
it's almost like these drug cartels in Mexico or terrorists. You're either with us or you're against us.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. I call it like it's kind of like cyber terrorism.
Yeah, it really
It
is.
is. It's like a form of terrorism. Obviously, not in most cases, not a violent form, but the
Yeah,
fact that people are not being people always worry about censorship from a government, but I'm like censorship is not going to come from the government. It's going to come from companies or coworkers or
yeah,
friends or even family in some cases, right? Forcing people to self-censor themselves. You'll be in a room and people will have a certain opinion, and someone else is like, no, actually, I strongly, in their heart of hearts, they know they strongly disagree with whatever is being promoted or pushed or proposed, but they're so afraid of the repercussions that they just don't speak up. I mean, I've spoken
right.
to people. It's amazing some of the emails and DMs and even personal communications I've had with people, especially over the past year when I've become a lot more vocal about certain things online. And literally without fail, every day I'll get at least a few messages, sometimes from other musicians, sometimes from a lot from people who work in entertainment. So actors, musicians, singers, whatever. And then also people who work in like the publishing industry and writing and stuff like that. And then people who work in like actors and anything creative, really. It's amazing. I get so many people who are like, yeah, man, like please keep speaking up, because like so many of us are kind of quietly backing you. In one sense, I'm kind of like, in some ways I'm kind of like, okay, cool, I'm chuffed. But another, I'm like, yo, don't leave me hanging out here to dry, man. Like don't let me be the only one.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
I'm
that.
like, say something, you know what I mean? Like
Uh,
don't make me like the fall guy.
no,
Like,
the bystander effect's a
yeah,
real thing, and they're afraid to speak up. They're like, "Oh, somebody else will do it." Well, Zuby's got this for us, right? Yeah, no, I have the same thing. I don't have quite the audience you do, but I still get a lot of people messaging me, email and DMs, and they're just saying like, "Hey, man, just keep doing what you're doing." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just saying simple things. Like this
mm,
isn't really anything extreme, but it's weird. We've come into this society, this world now where it's like extreme to say, you know, stay in shape, drink water, and bust your ass and try to make money. Like simple things, going
yeah,
for a run, like little things like that are becoming like more noteworthy than they ever have. Like I never thought I was like anything special in any of these regards, but
yeah.
it's funny watching people that can be inspired by just like little acts. And I went through a messy divorce a couple years ago, and it was like a wake up call to me. Um, she had a lot of issues, a lot more serious issues than I did, like drug issues, and she was stealing money and shit. But I I was forced to like reflect on my own life too, and I'm like, all right, so I probably gained a few pounds, and I was on path to becoming that fat guy.
Mm,
So I did a lot of things to change it. I lost like 30 pounds. Started running Spartan races and ran a half marathon the other day, just shit like that.
good for
But
you.
thanks, man. But
So tell us a little bit more about your own personal story, man. We've
all
kind of
right,
we've kind of jumped straight into some of the meat, but
yeah.
tell me more about you.
Yeah, so that's kinda what jump started this whole thing. So, I got married to this girl that had, like, every red flag that you can think of looking back on it. It's easy to say, like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I was a different guy back then. I wasn't
Mm,
quite as confident. I wasn't as comfortable, with myself. I was not terribly out of shape, but I was definitely not in shape. Um, so I jumped in with this girl, and a few months into the marriage, I come to find out she's been stealing money from me to go buy drugs, and she's like bailing on all the responsibilities. And the we try to kind of work through it for a little while, but like shortly after it, she just didn't come home one night, and like I'm not an idiot. I knew things were just never gonna be better, so that was the
Yeah.
final straw. I'm like, all right, look, this is obviously just gonna keep getting worse. I don't know where you were last night. I don't really care anymore. I'm done. Let's file the divorce. And it ended up being pretty messy.
Yeah.
She used my son, our son then, I guess, as leverage to basically get more money out of me, which she did, and that's fine. But I got the son, so
Mm.
he's good. He's safe now, and he's happy. And um, met a new girl, so we've got our own kind of Brady Bunch family going on, and it's actually working out pretty good. But that was my catalyst to like waking up, because
Okay.
I had like
So
a really good
what was your before we get on to that? I mean, what was your
yeah.
story? What was your story before that? I mean, you obviously had a life before you got married. So
Yeah.
what kind of led you down that line?
I was just, enjoying life. Just I worked my ass off at work, but like outside of that, I didn't take anything too seriously. I was drinking a lot. I was playing video games at home. Nothing interesting. So I
Mm.
figured I did my 9 to 5, and after that, I'd earned my right to, you know, to have my hedonistic pleasures. And I didn't realize that these short-term pleasures were making me miserable long term, and it took
Yeah.
a while for me to grow up and figure that out. So that's a big part of what this book's about, is going back and trying to uh, focus on more constructive habits. Now, I mean, I'm drinking a beer right now. I play games once in a while, but I've cut back on a lot of that, and I've learned to focus more on more constructive habits. So, um, I did like a video game detox. I don't know. I never thought I was addicted, but I think the best way to see if you're addicted to something is to give it up for a
Stop.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went like 500 days, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And I lost interest in it. But what what really got me interested was, as I was going through this divorce, I had a lot of emotions, a lot of anger. Um, may have put one hole in a wall at my house, which at least it was a wall. But
Yeah.
other than that, it was just a difficult time for me. So one of the uh, one of the assistants of my lawyer recommended that I should start journaling, and I was a good writer in school, but I didn't enjoy it. So went out, bought a notebook, started writing, and after about 6 months, I got this like full journal full of just random ass thoughts. Some of them were worthless, some of them need to be burned. Some of them were kind of interesting. So
Mm.
I started writing and I started tweeting, and I kind of just fell into this by accident. But I was tweeting, and I'm like, I should make a website. And I had this clever name. It was actually a different name. It was Helm of Awesome, and
Okay.
Helm of Awe is like this Viking symbol. I'm actually wearing a shirt that's got it.
Oh yeah.
It's called a Helm of Awe, and it's like a sign of protection that the Vikings would wear back in the day. And I just thought it was a clever name. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna snag this website since it's available. So I start writing and tweeting under it, and it was my earliest stuff, so it wasn't that great. Like I thought it was okay at the time, but looking back on it, it's like it's hard for me to even read it. Um, but I ran into like a bit of a self-censor issue. I painted myself into a corner, and I found myself not being able to say what I really wanted to say, and I was worried about alienating the people that were already following me, because I had about 1,000 people following me pretty quickly.
Okay.
So I go to
So
create.
so why do you, when you say you painted yourself into a corner, in what way? What do you mean by that?
Um, I wasn't quite as authentic in that
Oh, okay.
account. I
Okay,
was
gotcha.
I was leaning more towards like anti-consumerist thoughts, because I was just pissed off at society and everything after going through the divorce, and a lot of those sentiments have kind of faded since then.
Okay.
So I mean, I felt it at the time, but I couldn't portray it forever. And I created an alt account so I could be more outspoken and say the stuff that I wanted to say and not worry about alienating anybody. And I called it Path to Manliness. And it got awkward real quick when it started growing way faster than my regular account. But I just realized that, that's what people wanted. They want that authenticity. And it's something everyone I think struggles with to some degree, that self-censorship, because you're just afraid of not just what other people think, but these Twitter mods. I mean, I
Yeah.
constantly am watching people getting suspended and censored and shadow banned, whatever. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
keep track of it. The
Yeah,
one
no,
thing I've
it's
learned.
yeah, no, sorry, I was gonna say
Go ahead.
it's a weird one because I mean, we all do and should self-censor ourselves to some
Definitely.
degree, right? Because you don't
Yeah.
just blurt out every single thought that comes into your brain, otherwise you're gonna end up in trouble really quick. So it's kind of like it's a balancing act. It's like, okay, how much do I put out there and why am I putting it out there as well? I know with me, like, I mean, I often joke, man, dude, you guys should see the tweets that I write and then delete
Yeah.
because sometimes, so I sometimes I kind of catch myself. I'm like, that
Too far.
could, yeah, just too far. Or is
Yeah.
that constructive in some way? Like
Yeah.
anytime I put something out there, I try to think, is there some value in it? So
Yeah.
that can be value could be a lot of things. That could just be like some basic information. Value could be me promoting something, my music, my book, whatever, my podcast. Or value could be something funny, something that makes people laugh. Just it could be an interesting fact. It could just be an observation. It's like, either entertainment or information. I always try
Right.
to think, is this information or is it entertaining? And if it's neither, like if I can nail both, then I know it's a good tweet. If it's neither, then it's like, if it's neither and it could be come across a little bit, inflammatory for no reason or whatever, that those are the ones that I tend to delete because I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that doesn't really, I don't, me, I don't mind kicking the hornet's nest multiple times per day. But even when I kick it, it's not done purely for the sake of getting a reaction. It's because I'm saying something that I think either is true or is funny or is both. And those are the things that people tend to respond to.
Yeah. I mean, if you start tweeting, it's interesting. Twitter's this great little like social experiment where you can kind of like learn what works and what people are interested in, and
Mm.
the outrageous stuff, the evocative stuff does sell pretty well. So do the platitudes, which I don't mind those. I think they're constructive because
Yeah.
I try to come across positive, but even I have my days where I'm just like not feeling it. And sometimes you just need somebody to say something simple,
Yeah.
like be grateful for what you got and like look at how much worse somebody else has. It's just a good reminder. You do need to
Mm.
hear that shit every day. Yeah, I try to do the same thing. I was probably a little bit more negative when I first started just because I was fucking around a little bit, but I started taking it a lot more seriously when the messages started coming in where people were saying, "Hey, thanks. You've really done a lot to improve my life. You've helped me look at things better." And like I didn't expect it. I thought what I was doing was somewhat helpful, but I never thought it would be like profound or interesting or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it all changes when you start seeing people like sending you those personal messages and buying your book and little things like that. And yeah, I do the same thing. I try not to add more noise to what's already out there.
Yeah.
If I'm sending something, I want it to be helpful, and I don't like to attack people. I'd rather attack
Yeah.
ideas, and I got no
Yep.
problem doing
Yep. Yep.
that.
Yeah. Same with you. Exact same thing. I was actually saying, I don't think I've ever, okay, I've been on Twitter for 10 years, so I don't want to say
Okay.
never, but I do
Don't
not,
mind you.
I do not remember ever personally attacking somebody first,
Yeah.
right? Like I've retaliated a couple of times, but even then, it's more like, even when I do that, it's normally more like, look at how stupid this person is. Rather, it's more like I tend to ridicule people rather than,
Yeah.
just come out with a outright insult or something like that. Even when they don't, extend that same courtesy to me. And I've had some of those people who've come at me really viciously, and then 10 minutes later, they're tweeting apologies, not because they were forced to, but because I think people expect you to react the way they did.
Yeah.
So actually,
I agree.
if you can sort of take that higher ground and show that person's that grace and be kind of like, okay, this is stupid, but I'll pray for you,
Yeah.
then it's disarming, right? It's kind of like, oh, like he didn't snap back at me in the way that I kind of wanted him to. He didn't, like he didn't cuss at me, he didn't insult me or whatever. And I'd really try not to do that, especially because my profile's so public as well.
Yeah.
So even those interactions, I'm aware this is like a public interaction, and other people are going to be seeing how I respond to this stuff, even if it's like some crazy thing that I'm responding to. So I find that that's a good way to, sometimes convert people, or at least people say you can't change people's minds on Twitter or on social media. That's not actually true. You can.
You can
Some
definitely.
some some people are just locked into their thing, and they'll be ready when they're ready. But other people, it's like, okay, maybe this was just a misunderstanding, and you've just reacted in a very emotional, immature way.
Yeah. Well,
And
and you forget how many people are just silent on Twitter. There's a lot
yeah,
of people that just like look through. They don't even like stuff. They may not
mm,
even follow you, but they see you, and you can impact them more so than anybody because they're probably a little bit less indoctrinated in their thinking, where they're more open minded. And
yeah,
you've positioned yourself and I don't know if you've expected this or not, but I mean, you're probably a role model to a lot of people. So I know I do. I'm sure you do take this somewhat seriously at times,
mm.
where you don't know what kind of impact you're going to have, especially on like younger people.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's the same. I mean, of course I'm a professional musician, so as
Yeah,
a rapper, that's something from the beginning I've always bore in mind. That's why from the start I was like, okay, I want my overall message to be positive, to be inspirational. There's no profanity in my music. I've never rapped about any crazy stuff or anything I haven't done or anything like that. It's like, look, there's enough of that out there. That's not my
yeah,
life. That's not me. That's not what I'm trying to perpetuate in this world. So I'm just gonna go and do the opposite. That's why I find it really, really funny how some people deem me this sort of somewhat controversial figure, because I'm like, when it comes to rap, I'm like I'm as controversial as Will Smith, you know, and that is it's like I'm so uncontroversial. It's just like I don't rap about politics even like very
yeah.
little. It's just like
Well, they see certain headlines about you, and they kind of make up their mind, and they paint this image of you that suits their narrative.
yeah,
There's,
it's
there's a
just
lot of that
funny
going
though, because it's like I mean even on I've had sometimes people like, oh, are you worried about like losing fans or whatever? I'm like, no, my fans don't care about this stuff. Like I've got like a lot of different audiences as well. So like
Yeah,
my Twitter audience is very different from my like gig audience or like my Facebook audience or whatever. There's obviously an overlap,
right,
but it's kind of different things. So if I end up getting in some discussion about some deep stuff about morality or politics or like ethical issues or whatever, like that's kind of like a different crowd. So I kind of
right.
use Twitter's just kind of free for all for me, right? Like you get everything there. You get the music, you get the podcast, you get just my thoughts and views on different things, conversations. And then like Instagram, Facebook, that's more, it's not 100% music, but it's less edgy. It's less of a testing
More
ground.
professional. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a different kind of audience too.
It's a
I don't
different
know.
audience. Yeah. It
Yeah,
even geographically, very different audiences. Like Facebook is primarily UK, Twitter is primarily US. So it's like I'm literally talking to different people in different countries. If I'm trying to reach people in the USA, then yeah, Twitter and Instagram and the podcast are all primarily US. Facebook and I think YouTube as well are primarily UK, so I can kind of hit
yeah.
different people.
Well, YouTube hits based off like your location, which is
Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, you're kind of stuck in there, unless you want to move to the US, man.
Gosh, man, we'll see. I'm gonna move somewhere. I'm gonna move
Yeah,
somewhere in the next couple of years. I'm not sure 100% where yet, but we'll
yeah.
see.
I forget that you're British sometimes. I don't know what it is. The accent gets lost in the music, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a British accent. I mean, I didn't grow up in
Not
England.
really.
No, I
Oh,
didn't. I
okay.
didn't. I didn't grow up here, so
Okay.
no, it's okay. And English people don't think I'm English either. So yeah, no, like a lot of people think I'm Canadian. I think
Really?
because yeah, because I guess my accent is somewhere between American and with a touch of British. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of people guess Canadian. A lot of people just think most people just think I'm American,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think my attitude is more American than it is British as well.
Yeah, the British,
If that
they
makes
seem to be
sense.
more, well, at least from my perception, they seem to be a little bit more reserved than us Americans. We're too brash. We're too aggressive, wearing flags on our heads and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Actually, if someone had a Union Jack version of what you're wearing on your head, people would be looking at them like they think you're like a football hooligan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
That's too bad. It's a good looking flag too. You guys should
yeah,
start
man.
wearing that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Some people think that waving the flag is racist or something these days. So
Yeah, it's offensive, yeah. Even
it's
Angela Merkel doesn't like the German flag.
it's all very weird. But
It
yeah, no.
is weird.
it's all very weird. Like
I think it goes both ways though. Like when I see like on the trucks driving by, I think it's kind of weird when people have the flags like hanging off their truck. It's kind of cool, but it's also like
yeah.
that's a bit much. And then but like not being proud of it, that's also weird. I mean, like, come on, you're from there. Like, be proud of it. And just because
Yeah.
you're proud of America doesn't mean you hate the other countries.
No,
You
I
know?
mean it's silly. I mean, there's you wouldn't go to any other country and you see their flag and you think that this is some sort of attack on anybody. If you go to Romania and
Yeah.
you see Romanian flags, you're not like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? It's just like, well, you're in Romania, you're in Spain, you're in Italy, you're in
Yeah.
Nigeria, like you're going to see the flag.
Yeah. It's
Cool.
perfectly normal.
Yeah,
Yeah. You go to
like,
the Olympics, they're all there. They all get along just fine.
exactly, man. It's healthy. They're all their kit is designed in their colors. It's cool, man.
Yeah,
It's good.
it is.
It's good, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why people would want this kind of complete hodgepodge of just everyone. I don't know. There's this a bit like what we were touching on earlier. It seems like there's people who want like everything and everyone to be. I don't know. There are so many hypocrisies in these philosophies because it's like you're trying to make everybody the same,
Yep.
whilst also like really massively highlighting the differences and the differences that don't matter that much as well. Like not even like the good difference.
Yeah, right.
It's very odd. It's like, okay, well, you're kind of blurring the line between male and female, and then you're blurring the line between like countries and even here in the UK, right? We've got the whole thing going on, obviously with Brexit, and there's a lot of talk about the European, I don't know, kind of Europeanism versus nationalism. So you've got certain countries where they're much more like, no, like we want, like we're in Europe, but we want our own thing as well.
Right.
And then you've got other people who are kind of like, no, like we should just become like a United States of Europe sort of thing. And then you've got other people pushing back against that. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's weird to me because I guess, if I go to a different country, I travel a lot, I've been to I've been to like 30 something countries, but if I go to a country, I go there because I don't want it to just be like where I live.
Yeah.
If I went to Japan and it was just the same, it was just exactly the same as the UK and the same people, and so I'd feel like shortchanged. I'd be like, wait, I came to Japan. I want a little bit of.
It's like when you go to a Mexican restaurant and your friend tries to order a cheeseburger. It's like, dude, we're at the Mexican place. This is where you get the tacos. Come on.
Yeah.
Get some carnitas.
Yeah, man.
But like, I know what you're saying. Like there is it's interesting that the United States of Europe idea is unique, but like we've got the same issues over here, but we're allowed to kind of have our own different little quirks. Like you can go to Utah and you got the Mormons over there. You can go to Nevada and gambling and prostitution's okay. Then you can go to Florida and all bets are off. Like every state's got its own little like quirks.
What's the Florida man done today?
Oh God, I don't know. Something with an alligator. I haven't seen anything on it yet. Too busy doing actual work. I don't like read the news anymore. I live in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I saw there was an earthquake in Cleveland on my phone, but I couldn't open the link, so I had to go to the news site to go see if there was an actual earthquake near my town. But it was the other Cleveland.
Okay, I didn't even know that there was a Cleveland in Tennessee.
I didn't either until like 3 years ago. There's not much there. I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
No, fair enough, man.
But yeah, I don't look at the news. I haven't really like checked it in like over a year, and like I don't see how it's hurting my life at all. In fact, I feel more at ease.
I get it from Twitter.
Yeah, I like Twitter.
Honestly. I get my news from Twitter. Like I don't even have a TV in my house.
Really?
I couldn't watch TV even if I wanted to. Like I don't have a TV, and I haven't for years. So yeah, no, I get I feel like I stay very well updated. But it's mainly so social media, Twitter, YouTube. Like I can see on any given day, it's like, okay, what's today's outrage? What's the random nonsense that people are like? You kind of have the real news, and then you have like the outrage news. The outrage news gets more coverage, even though it's like always something stupid. And then you've got like, oh, there's some real stuff. Oh, there was a earthquake. Oh, there was a hurricane somewhere. Like it's really weird how what people. I don't want to say choose because I don't think people choose. It's really interesting what gets people's attention and what creates people's outrage.
Well, a lot of people are like not in control of their emotions. So they see there's that scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker's talking about how like a truckload of soldiers gets killed in Iraq, and it's like, that happens. We're
Yeah.
not shocked by that. But like when it's a school shooting, they freak out because that upsets their world and it's more shocking. So it's when these emotional events come in and they've learned to play into people's emotions with these weird social stories about some
Mm.
kid doing whatever and how they got drag queens now doing book readings. And it's like, man, I used to be all about that, let your freak flag fly, but like let's keep the kids out of it at least.
I'm with you completely on it. Literally, like I've got a couple of lines where, and one of them is like anything to do with children that potentially, can
Yeah.
impact them negatively. Like I don't even have kids. I've got a whole bunch of nieces and nephews, so maybe I'm like more sensitive to it now than I used to be. But
Yeah.
always I've just been like, look, adults. My general rule is like, look, adults, consenting adults, do what you want as long as you're not hurting, harming, maiming, killing another human being. It doesn't mean I approve of it all, but just like I wouldn't want other people enforcing all their beliefs and regulations on me, I wouldn't want to do that to other people. But
Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to kids or hurt stuff that hurts other people, like physically hurts, I don't mean like saying something mean, but
Right.
but even then, like just life isn't that hard, man. Just treat people decently, and
Yeah.
it tends to it tends to go all right. Just
Yeah.
don't
For
be
the most
don't be
part.
an a-hole. Work hard, and most 95% of the time it'll work out okay in the
Yeah.
long run.
And then don't sweat the small stuff. Like
Yeah.
there's so many little things you can get upset about. This wasn't necessarily small, but I had to pay the IRS a pretty significant amount of money.
Oh
We'll
no.
just say it was about a month of my salary. We'll say
Yeah.
that because I made a mistake last year. It involved my alimony, so it was tax on money that I didn't even get to keep,
Yeah.
and I'm upset about it. I'm kind of annoyed, and then I see I think it was Tanner Guzzi. He had a friend on Twitter. He was talking about that got into like a car accident. His wife got killed, and he got
Oh wow.
paralyzed. And I'm like, all right, I came out okay.
Man, yeah. Reframing.
Yeah, exactly.
Always
Yeah, and
reframing, man. It's
it's
yeah.
hard to explain to people, but just as you get older, you start kind of like understanding it better. Because I remember like little things would like set me off when I was younger, and the more that stuff happens to you, you just kind of start getting like used to it. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
Sun's coming up tomorrow. My family's healthy. Life's good.
Mm. Why do you think it is that some people never reach that stage?
That stage of enlightenment.
Yeah. Like I feel like I hit it. I feel like I reached it like in my probably before I was even a teenager. But it seems like,
Yeah.
there's all these grown adults who can't seem to work that thing out, even though it seems quite apparent.
All right. So I say this a lot on Twitter. And I'll get to flesh it out now since it's a podcast, which is why I love podcasts.
Yeah.
So society is too soft. I say that
Mm.
all the time, but 280 characters doesn't really flesh it out. So most people grow up too good and they don't have like legit issues. I grew up with a pretty easy life. My parents were not necessarily wealthy, but we went out to eat whenever we wanted. We didn't have to worry about bills so much. We all had nice cars, American cars. We weren't driving around Rolls Royce or anything, but
Yeah.
life was good. Um, Most people never have that like moment of adversity that kind of frames everything into perspective. So that same year that I went through the divorce, I lose like $250,000 over a few years. I lose my wife. I lose this whole perspective of like trying to have a not perfect life, but I'm trying to go after that American dream of getting married and having kids. And now it's all like messy. I also started going blind, and I
Started
had
going
a
blind?
yeah, I had a retinal detachment. So
Oh,
I'm sitting there one day and I felt like a shade's coming down my eye. I couldn't really figure it out. I thought I had a weird contact or I just slept funny or something. So I just
yeah.
ignored it. Next day it's worse. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, all right, is this not gonna get better? I don't know what to do. So I went to a eye doctor like an hour later. And I was having surgery like 3 days from then.
Oh, wow.
So this is unusual for younger people, but I had a retinal detachment in both eyes. And
And nothing caused it, just random?
they kept asking me if there was like a head injury,
Yeah.
but I mean, I played football in high school, but since then, nothing notable. No like bar fights or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's genetic though. Like I had
Okay.
my mom had it, and I have like remarkably terrible vision without my contacts, so that plays into it a little bit.
Mm.
But yeah, people that don't have glasses and contacts are like, "Oh, I don't have to go to the eye doctor." I'm like, "Yeah, there's other reasons to go. Like shit goes wrong sometimes." So
Oh, wow.
I caught it pretty early. Like
Okay.
one of my eyes is perfect. My other one's a little less than perfect. I've actually got a little bit of a blind spot, which I don't notice it too much. Although I was sparring the other day and I got popped in the nose by this girl and I literally never saw it. She's like, "I'm so
Oh,
sorry. I thought you're gonna block it." I'm like, "You're good." And
yeah,
like I don't tell anyone this. I don't want them to know there's a blind spot. So,
yeah.
but yeah, you go through these moments like that. It reframes everything.
Mm,
And the next time you get into like a car accident or something that seems serious happens, it just kind of reminds you, it's like, I've been through worse.
yeah, man.
But
So,
most people are fortunate they don't have to go through that moment.
yeah, man. So, so tell us a little bit more about the book that you wrote. What's it all about?
Yeah, Reclaim Your Manhood. It's just 20 rules of or
After
20
my female deadlift, I think I might need to do that.
I don't think I could break that record, so I'm impressed. The first one's hit the gym, so you got that one covered.
Okay, good.
But yeah, it's simple things, and it's not a long book because I know guys in general don't like to read, so there's nothing stopping a guy from picking this book up and reading it.
I
Like
love reading. Maybe I am a woman.
I like to read. Nothing wrong with being a little feminine once in a while.
Yeah.
I get shit all the time on Twitter, like, "Oh, you're so manly and all this shit." I'm like, I'm not even the like most manly guy out there. That's just the name, but it makes you a target.
So
But
what are
it's
the others? You said going to the gym. There's got to be more
yeah,
than.
yeah. Writing is a big one.
Okay.
It sounds silly and it sounds worthless, but it really focuses your life when you start writing. And the other thing that a lot of people struggle with, I definitely struggle with, is I lose perspective. So I'll be working towards something and I feel like I'm just not getting any better and it's moving too slow and I'm looking at day to day. You don't see the changes that are happening every couple days.
Mhm.
But then when you go back 6 months later and read what you were struggling with, it's like paradigm shifting where you realize how much progress you've made and how much your problems that you were dealing with then, they're no longer an issue.
Mm.
You've elevated yourself so much beyond them, but you forget this stuff. You forget all the little victories.
Yeah.
This isn't in the book, but this is another thing I do. I've got a note in my phone that's just 2019 accomplishments. And whenever I have something kind of noticeable, something worthy happen, maybe it's this saying I was on Zuby's podcast. I'll write
Mm.
that down. And then like when you look at it like over the course of a year, like it's only halfway through the
I
year,
really
but
like
like,
that. I really like that idea. I'm gonna start doing
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
you
like that.
forget about it.
Yeah, I'm
You
gonna
forget
start
about
doing
these
that.
little things, and you
Yeah,
add them
because
all up, and it's like, "Oh, it's been a pretty good year," and then it motivates you to do shit too.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I've bossed it this year, so I'm like
Deadlift record.
yeah, I should have been doing that. Yeah, I mean, I went back to my my tweet from January 1 just yesterday, and I mean, I've already accomplished most of my New Year's resolutions, which were
Yeah.
to achieve by the end of the year. Like one of them was like 30,000 Twitter followers. Like I've now got 66,000. One of them was like start a podcast and release 30 episodes.
There you go.
This is about the 50th one that I'm recording already, and we're not even halfway through the year.
I'm impressed. You're hammering them out, like,
Thanks,
fast.
man.
Yeah. I was,
Yeah.
like, trying to catch up on them. I'm like, I don't think I can listen to this fast enough to listen to them all.
Yeah.
But,
What I need is if I've actually gone back down to one a week, but
yeah.
I want to do more. I want to do more a week. It's just the editing process. Like once
Yep.
I can get somebody else to edit it, then I can go full speed ahead. Yeah, but there were loads of those goals I saw, in term, even some of them like making money online goals, because this year I was like, all right, I want to shift stuff to being able to make money online. But then with going
Yeah.
viral and releasing the ebook and selling merchandise and all that, it's like cool. Like I had a goal to hit X amount per month for 3 months in a row, and it's like awesome. I did that April, May, June, bang, done. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm having the same issue. I tend to undersell myself, I guess. So
Yeah.
I wanted 8,000 Twitter followers by the end of the year, and I'm at 10,000 now.
How many did you have at the start?
Like 4,000.
It's a good look,
Yeah,
man.
I just started the account like about a year ago.
Yeah, man. No, you'll be just keep going, man. It
Yeah,
snowballs a little as well. Yeah, it grows in surges. Like you'll just get
it
something where
does.
it just will go hard for a couple of days and then it'll calm down. And
Yep. Yeah, I've noticed that too. There's just little things you do, and people they start noticing you.
yeah,
Um, the other thing I've noticed is people they don't see everything. There's a lot of noise out there. It took me a long
for
time to
sure.
figure this out, but like when I was selling my books, this Reclaim Your Manhood book,
Mm.
it didn't sell that well for the first like 6 months. It sold pretty well the first month, but then it didn't. And there's a guy named Jose Rosado. And he's really good with
Hey, that's my dude.
he's
Good
really
guy.
good at copywriting and
Shout
selling.
out to Jose, man. Jose's changing lives out here, man.
He helped me out a lot, and I
Okay.
mentioned to him one time, like, my book's not selling that well. It did for a while, and he goes, "Well, are you promoting it a lot?" I go, I'm not promoting as much as I used to. And he goes, and your sales are down. That's funny. I'm like, yeah, it is funny. I admit. So I found this one tweet that just kind of clicks, and I sent it out one day, and it sold like 10 copies in a day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that works. So I just copy pasted it onto this app that I use. And now it goes out once a month, and once a month, big hit of sales every single month. So,
Nice.
people don't notice everything. There's too much noise. So you're
There's a
not,
lot of noise out there.
if you're selling yourself or something, you're probably not doing it enough. And
Yeah.
it's awkward, and
It's
I'm
funny
actually a
because
pretty shy guy.
it's funny because you got
Normally.
to think like, I mean, if you think of like how much a company like Coca-Cola or
Yeah.
Nike or Pepsi, it's like this brand has existed for like decades. Everybody already knows Coca-Cola exists, but they still advertise as if you've never come across them, you've never tasted their beverage.
Yep.
And it's like, gosh, okay, if Coca-Cola is not advertising, if Coca-Cola is not over advertising, what on earth makes any of us think that we are over advertising, right?
Exactly.
On a global basis, they're on social media, billboards, television, sports teams. It's just like every day.
They nail it. Yeah, and it's not even about like letting people know it's there. It's just remind them like, hey, you're thirsty, aren't you?
Yeah,
exactly. Soda.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I'm not a big soda drinker, so that doesn't work for me. But the beers, every once in a while, and it's not usually the commercials, but like in movies or TV shows, I see like people just chilling at a bar, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice to stop writing for a little bit and just go have a beer and chill out.
That's one thing I've never been able to drink, man.
Really?
Nah.
I need to stop doing it because that's like the one thing keeping me
for
from
real?
like being like really cut. Like, like everyone's like, oh, you just need to eat better. I eat okay.
Yeah.
I drink a few beers every once in a while.
And no joke, I think I've drunk in totality, I've probably drunk one beer in my life.
Wow. That's
like
amazing.
if I were to add up all the beer I've drunk, I think it would probably come to one bottle.
Wow. That's crazy. I don't drink it. I'm not the guy that'll buy like a case of Bud Light and pound it over the weekend, but like I'll buy like a nice beer. I'm drinking a Sweetwater 420 Mango Kush. They brew it with hemp, and like when you open the thing up, it smells like straight up dank.
Oh, really? I was like, that sounds like that's a heck of a name for a beer right there.
I saw it at a local bar the other day, and I just walked in, and somebody already poured one, and I started like going, so, someone in the bathroom? What's going on? Yeah. The bartender knew me. He's like laughing. He goes, "Come here, I'll show you."
Oh wow, that's interesting.
But
it's funny. As a kid, both beer and coffee, people always said that, oh, when you're older, you'll like it. And it's like, I got to 20, I was like, still don't like it. Got to 25, I was like, still don't like it. It's like nope, still don't like those. Yeah, so I'm not coffee and beer.
I mean, I'm not sold that people like coffee to begin with. Like most people are putting so much sugar and fattening stuff in their coffee. It's like, do you really like coffee, or you just want the sweeteners with it? Like, you're not even drinking this. I'll drink a black coffee, but
makes me shudder.
It's bitter. It's an acquired taste. I don't actually drink it that often. I just wake up and go.
Yeah, man.
My coffee cup is just getting on the exercise bike or going for a jog, something like that.
So what's next for you, man? Are you gonna? What's the plan? What's the big goal?
Big goal. I've got another book coming out. I've had a couple ebooks, but they're smaller. They're important and they can help in a lot of ways. One's how to grow a better Twitter following. One's more about like making money online. But I've got another one. It's more of a sequel to Reclaim Your Manhood. It's called How to Adopt the Warrior Mindset, and that one's gonna be more significant, a bigger book. And then like on a more personal level, I'm doing my second Spartan race here in about 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran my first one last year, and that was another one of those like paradigm shifting moments for me where I talk about this a lot. You gotta put yourself out there and challenge yourself. It's another chapter in the book. And I had a group of guys come up to me, or a guy and his wife. They wanted to do the Spartan race, and they asked me to join. At the time, I was like 20, 30 pounds heavier and not in the best shape. And they're like, hey, we're gonna do a Spartan race. You should join. I'm like, nah, I can't do that. Yeah. And like, well, yeah, you can, because we're gonna train. And I kind of like took it personally as like a challenge. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll join.
Okay.
So there were so many things that were just impossible in my mind. Like I couldn't run the Spartan race. I couldn't climb a rope. And by applying myself and actually like focusing and working towards all this stuff, I did this. I accomplished the Spartan race. I climbed a rope. I climbed like a 90-foot cliff on this like cargo net thing. And
Okay.
I mean, like, no support, nothing. Like, if I fall, like, I don't know if I would have died, but it'd been rough.
Mm,
And like, I'm petrified of heights. So like
okay.
getting through all that shit was a huge, huge turning point. And then once you start knocking out like one or two things that are impossible in your mind, it changes your mind on everything else. It's like, all right, I could probably write a book. All
Yeah.
right, I can probably start a podcast. Why not?
Yeah,
I just
man.
got to figure out how to do it. You know,
That's good. That's good,
um,
man. I mean, it's picking up all these skills. I mean, it's the same thing I've done. Like, I wanted to start this podcast last year, but I didn't know what direction I wanted to take in it. I thought,
yeah,
do I want to do just a pure music podcast? Do I want to do like a one just interviewing entrepreneurs and business and stuff? And then eventually I was like, you know what? Like I want to do all of those. So let me just keep it wide open. Anybody who's interesting, who's got a fascinating story, who's got a unique perspective, unique
yeah,
ideas, let's just have like a forum for open discussions. I don't
yeah.
like to over plan them and have it like a strict interview where I've got this list of questions. It's like, oh, let's just sit down with interesting people, and I know how to have conversations, so let's just talk and see where things go.
That's how I'm at with it. I used to
Yeah.
start with a list, and sometimes I'd like actually go through the list. But like I did one with Chance Lunsford. You did a podcast with him recently.
Hmm.
And I had a list of questions I wanted to ask him, and we just started bullshitting, talking because like we've like become friends. And I looked down my list when I got done. I'm like, I asked him one out of these like 20 questions. Like I don't even know why I'm bothering with this anymore. So I don't do the list anymore. I might do like a few. So
Mm.
sometimes you get stuck and you have a moment of a little lull in the conversation. It's good for that, but the natural conversation's where it's at. So I did the same thing. I started the podcast. I didn't know what kind of direction I wanted to go, and I waited a few months. And I just kept thinking and thinking, and I didn't figure it out when I launched. I just launched it. But
Mm.
I've realized since then I don't really care how many people listen or how many people decide to sponsor it or anything like that. I really enjoy talking to these interesting people, and by having a podcast, they want to talk to you, and
Yeah.
you get to talk to them, and that's the part I enjoy. So whether it makes
Gotcha.
money or doesn't, gets me attention, I don't know. I just enjoy doing it.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah, man. A couple years ago, I never would have thought I'd be talking to somebody like Zuby, so it's fun.
You probably didn't know someone like Zuby existed.
I didn't, but I do
Some
thanks to this corner of Twitter.
Man, I'm in like 10 different corners of Twitter. That's the weirdest thing on my account. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm at this intersection between like
yeah.
hyper political Twitter and like music Twitter and like and
It's
hip hop Twitter, and then like self-improvement Twitter and business Twitter. And it's
yeah,
so weird. I mean, I'm followed like sometimes I look at who follows me and I'm really intrigued. I'm followed by a lot of like professional sportsmen, and
that's
then
cool.
yeah, and then like a lot of politicians. Like I'm followed by
I mean,
a lot of
you become
politicians and
you
journalists and
become politically relevant, so that
yeah, and
makes
like
sense.
academics. I mean, I'm followed by the most of the so-called intellectual dark web. So like lots of like professors, and yeah, it's interesting. It's just kind of weird, but it's cool. It's cool. Like I
Yeah,
like that. It's kind of like, you know what? No one else in my arena. There's not another rapper who is
exactly.
crossing these kind of boundaries and cross-pollinating audiences
Yeah,
in this kind of way. So it's different. It's weird, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna see where it takes me. I'm not gonna steer the ship too hard. I'm just gonna kind of connect
yeah,
with all these people, keep doing what I'm doing, keep putting the messages out there, keep putting music and creative content out there, and we'll see where it all ends up. Hopefully one day it'll be like a big media empire or something.
hey, man, it could happen. I mean,
No, that's what I'm aiming for. I mean,
yeah,
I've started viewing myself as a media company.
I like
As
that.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
how I look at it now. So like, video, music, podcasts, just
yeah,
looking at like, okay, like I'm a creator,
yeah,
and I'm essentially a small, not a big media company. I'm just kind of like a one man media company. And that's how things are happening now. I mean, you've got people who are one single YouTuber who's there making videos in their bedroom and whatever, and someone like a Tim Pool or whatever, and he can be a more trusted news source. I trust him more, that individual more as a news
yeah,
source than I do like some of these huge corporations with
yeah.
billions and billions of pounds and dollars, which is it's just amazing.
We went too far. Everything kept getting bigger and bigger, and it got faceless to the point where it's like I don't even know what that is anymore. Like,
Mm.
what even is Coca-Cola? You forget that there's actually people involved in it, and there are,
Yeah,
but like it's lost its humanity.
that's true.
So
There's no face for Coca-Cola, is there?
no, there's
I
not
don't
a
I
lot
don't
of
even
companies.
I don't even know who owns it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think Nike. I think of Jordan because I'm 31,
mm,
but I mean, really, I guess it's LeBron now. But maybe
yeah,
it's not even him anymore. I don't even know.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
I really don't. I've
Yeah,
lost. I've lost touch of sports. The only sport I follow anymore is the UFC. I've
Oh,
gotten like
okay.
that's the one reason I have a TV.
Fair enough,
If
man.
it weren't for that, I wouldn't have one. But um, it's interesting. That whole media idea is really big, and it's I didn't know exactly where I was going with it, and I still kind of don't at times, although I have visions. But I think if you have any interest in reaching people, I think it's worth creating some sort of a personal brand, and maybe it's
Yeah.
only 100 people, but it's definitely worth doing.
It's
Um,
becoming increasingly important. I mean, I
yeah.
just look at it. Look, that's the way the world. That's the way the world.
Yep.
Well, the world is already there, but it's
It's in
way.
its infancy.
Yeah, but
Most people are unaware of it.
it's the way the world is going, and the
Yeah.
people who are going to have gigantic leverage in 5, 10, 15 years. It's going to be those people who have those personal brands and who
Yeah.
are their own little media outlets, whether
Yeah.
they're Instagram or YouTube influencers, or they're
Right.
podcasters, or they're independent journalists, or
Yeah.
just content creators, or whatever. I think those people are going to be in the future. That's really going to be where the power, the influence, even the money is going to be,
Definitely.
because companies are latching onto it, right? Companies are starting to see, oh, rather than putting up a big billboard, why don't we talk to these 100 YouTubers or Instagrammers for the same amount of money and get them to, post about our new T-shirt or our new lipstick or whatever, and that's going to convert better
Yeah.
than paying huge amounts of money for like a television ad, which people might not watch and isn't very well targeted. And so billions and billions of advertising dollars are shifting over to influencer marketing every year. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, I mean, it's predicted that. So right now, let me remember the stat. Right now, there's about 4 billion people online, about 4 billion, which is something like 55-60% of the world's population.
Yeah.
In 2030, it's predicted to be 90% of the world's population. I think it's going to be about 8 billion people by 2030. That's the prediction, which is going to be like, yeah, 90% of the world's population.
It's amazing.
So it's going to, so because we've already kind of had this revolution in the West, but people need to remember this is going to happen again in the African countries and lots of the Asian countries, South America, like all these places that don't yet have 4G and 5G and high speed fiber optic broadband and all that kind of stuff. Like that whole world, like all these millions, billions of people are also going to be coming onto online and social media and all that in full effect. And that is something which, if you're aware of, I think people should be thinking, okay, how do I position myself so that I can take advantage of that in some way, right? Because that's going to be huge. Just like imagine if you could go back to 2008 and you knew all of this stuff was going to be where it is now, right? You could have just capitalized, just
Yeah.
done the land grab, bought the land really cheap, just like people who bought land when it was like super duper cheap. And then you're like now sitting on this property and it's like, man, you could have, those people who were like on YouTube in 2009 and 2010 going hard, or who started their podcasts in 2010, it's like, man, they're now just out of this,
Yeah.
world. Yeah.
Well, so many people start and they don't persist,
Yeah.
and it takes a while to build it up. Sometimes it takes a long time. I got lucky in so many ways. Like I had the stupidest fucking tweet take off on my first day.
Oh,
I
really?
used to I used to talk more like political crap.
Mm.
And I made some comparison between Tammy Lauren and Megan Kelly, talking about how like people want a younger, more traditional, more attractive woman, not this old bitter Megan Kelly or whatever. And like I had a very unflattering picture of her and a good one of Megan Kelly or Tammy Lauren.
Yeah.
And I put like no effort into it. I actually misspelled both their names, and people were making fun of me about it. But that just gives you more attention.
Yeah.
And I remember running in town. I don't know if I was going to the gym or what, but I'm just sitting there with my phone while I'm driving, and the music kept getting interrupted because it's constantly dinging these Twitter
Oh, okay.
notifications. I hadn't turned them off yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on? And I looked down, like after I drove for like an hour or half an hour or whatever it was. And I'm like, I got like 30 new followers. That's weird. And it ended up getting like retweeted like 200, 300 times on
Mm.
this brand new account. I had like 100 followers by the end of the day. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even, but like people love that like outrage shit and just
Yeah.
nonsense. And
Yeah. It's weird. Sometimes it's like I have to because I've been on Twitter for so long, I can I can kind of predict when something's going to go viral.
Yeah.
Like I can tell, and sometimes I won't tweet something at a certain time because I haven't got the time capacity to deal with the fallout. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like I have to be ready for it. It's like, okay, today I'm going to tweet this thing, and I know it's gonna.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I
My
don't.
morning's the heavy hitters, and the afternoon and
Yeah,
evening
yeah.
is like fluff.
Yeah, and with me, like I save the most juicy ones for later in the day because I know that's when, like, I wait for the Americans to wake up.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Yeah,
Because my morning, it's like, it'll be like 2 a.m. where you are or whatever. So it's like,
yeah.
okay, now let me hold fire on that one.
No,
I'll wait.
I've like I don't sleep well, so like I'll wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes. I'll get on Twitter and like see the European side of Twitter. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so much more chill. I love it.
Yeah, you're up to there, man.
It's very
Awesome, bro.
different.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's people are still shouty, people are still angry, but it's slightly different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this whole like branding thing, it's so funny, but like a lot of people just give up too early. If you just stick with it, it would take off, you know.
Yeah, it's like that with everything.
Yeah, I got lucky with mine, but like I kept doing it, you know, and like people ask all the time, "Hey, how do I grow my Twitter account?" Like, well, first off, are you tweeting every day? No. Well, let's start there.
I need to write that book.
Yeah, right.
that's a
You could
book
sell that
waiting.
book.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's a book waiting for me to be written.
It's not that hard to write. I mean,
Yeah,
once you've done it, you know. Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay, cool.
They're trying to
Awesome,
censor you, man.
Flipping Google, man. Awesome, man. I'm looking at the time. We're coming up to an hour right now. So why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
All right, so I'm easy. I got the same brand everywhere. It's Path to Manliness. So I'm most active on Twitter. I do have a website, pathtomanliness.com, and I post on there fairly regularly. And then I've got a couple books. Reclaim Your Manhood. It's on Amazon. The ebook is $5. $5. So start with that one. And if you want something more specific, you can DM me. I actually do respond to most of my messages, probably all of them, unless you're being trollish. Which that's been shocking to me. Is most people have been more positive. I expected more flack, and I would say like 95% of my messages are like positive. It's great.
Yeah, they should be.
Yeah, and then I've got a podcast too. It's Path to Manliness. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It's been really good to talk to you, man.
Thanks, Zuby. It's great getting to know you a little better.
No doubt,
That was
bro.
a lot
Have a
of
good
fun.
day. Yeah,
Hey, you
man.
too, man.